It is NFL Draft Week, and on today's episode, we're going to discuss which players can climb into and fall out of round one of the 2025 NFL Draft. Plus, we have some spicy hot takes. That and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out to you for being our everydayers. We got a fun one. We're going to talk about those prospects that can climb into round one. Then we're going to get into those prospects that could slip down the board and fall out of round one. And then NFL Draft hot takes. Why? Because it is NFL Draft week. Keith, a guy that can, I'm going to say fall into round one, a guy that can climb into round one to me. And I think we talked about the tight end situation yesterday, like the Denver Broncos and the Chargers. If Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren are gone, what do? Do they pivot, go a different direction? A guy I think that could be picking up steam and could be a late first round pick is your boy, LSU's Mason Taylor, Keith. I think if that situation, if Loveland and Warren are gone, from what I talked to some people, this past weekend, it was like, man, like we're hearing that he both of those guys have top 15, top 12 type of grades for some teams. If both of those guys are gone, right? We talked about the Denver Broncos. Well, you know what? If they're gone, they go get their running back on the Amari Hampton. That's what we did in the mock draft, right? But if you're the Chargers, the Chargers is a team that could potentially say, you know what? We need another viable option for we do need another viable option, and they need a tight end. Like, regardless if they had receivers or not, they could have kept Josh Palmer. Quentin Johnson is growing. You got Ladd McConkey. They don't have a tight end. And Greg Roman's offenses, you look at his history as an offensive coordinator in San Fran, Delaney Walker, Vernon Davis, Baltimore, right? Because first they had, I forget his name. They actually drafted him before Mark Andrews. I think they drafted him in the exact same draft. I'm blanking his name right now.
Not Hayden Hurst, right?
Yes, Hayden Hurst. Yes, Hayden Hurst. They drafted him round one, and then they traded back up, got Lamar. They got Mark Andrews like day two. So what a draft for them. But then, they had both of those guys, right? Then eventually it was Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. Like, we've seen it with him. Like, he gets the ball to his tight ends. Like, and I think now, not saying it's going to take it away from Ladd, but if they're sitting there at 22 and they've done everything, like, you know what, that pedigree, Jim Harbaugh being a ball coach that he is, I can see that pedigree of your father is a Hall of Famer. You got that in your bloodline. We've seen you at LSU. You're a willing blocker. You're more talented than they displayed because they didn't get you the football enough, and they didn't unleash you in the way to your true full skill set. Like what we saw at the Senior Bowl, where he was winning one-on-ones, he was getting open in team. Like, they didn't use him a lot in that regard. They fed everybody else, the receivers, things like that. I think he's a guy that can climb up into round one and kind of catch people off guard. That this is a prospect I don't think people are really thinking about. When you hear Mason Taylor, you associate him with like a top of the second round pick. But with teams needing help at the tight end position, I 100% concede, especially the Chargers at pick 22. Another team, the Rams at pick 26. I think that, I know that there's been some mock drafts, Keith, that put Jackson Dart and a quarterback here. I think this team is trying to win now. You don't re-up or like shift around some money to make Matthew Stafford happy for nothing. You do it because you're trying to win another Super Bowl before his time comes that he walks off into the sunset. I think Mason Taylor could be a guy on their radar or the Chargers' radar. I think back in the first round, the Commanders, Keith, at pick 28, 29. They selected Benson not last year in round 2. They could look to still add a Mason Taylor in round 1 and use Benson not as that run blocker early in his career until he develops. I just look at that Mason Taylor as a potential fit for a lot of teams.
But DP, I think in a draft where and this has been well documented, there's not a lot of separation from player 15 and player 60, right?
Right.
That there may be some teams that want the high floor prospect with the NFL pedigree, and that's why you bringing up Mason Taylor, I think it's very well, right? I think it's possible. I think it's really, really possible that we can see him come off of the board in the first round. The guy I'm gonna go with, DP, and I believe I mentioned him before. It might have been because one of our mock drafts. I'm gonna go Maxwell Hairston. We've just seen too many fast guys get, I guess, quote unquote, overdrafted, but I wouldn't even consider him overdrafted in this draft just because, especially once you get the picks, maybe 20 to the end of the first round, right? You're talking about the Vikings, you're talking about the Packers, you're talking about the Rams. Like, all of those teams need cornerbacks, but we don't mock them corners because we like, who's the appropriate guy, right? Like, who should really, like, because you put Azariah Thomas there and you kind of like, I like it, I don't love it, right? And I wonder if teams gonna be like, hey, this guy ran fast. He had a lot of production in 2023. He was injured in 2024. We got the data point at a Kentucky-Texas game. Let's take it and roll with it, right? And we've seen fast guys get drafted high all the time. Like, how many guys in the past, especially corners, that have had, like maybe late second, early third round film, but because they ran fast, they went higher. I mean, even the Cowboys took Byron Jones because he jumped far. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how that translates, but they took him early. He was not a first round pick before he jumped, right? Like, point blank period. He was not a first round pick. I believe he came out of UConn and then he jumped far and then he was a first round pick. So that's why I go with Maxwell Hairston, DP.
No, I think that is, to your point, like that backstretch picks from pick 22 to 32, like those teams that need corners, like it's going to be a conversation of who best fits what we do, right? Like, any teams start, every team got their thresholds. Like the Packers, they're going to be a team that wants the size, the athleticism, the arm length, the body types. That's why the Trey Amos and Azariah Thomas make sense for them. But Maxwell Hairston definitely, like, is a guy that he covers well. He, like, this guy plays man. He plays off. He baits you in the throws. He's got ball skills, and he's an electric athlete. So yeah, like, you look at him. I think this was a comp that you used. I think we both used, like, Dante Jackson. I think there was a company we used for him. Like, both of us used that for him at different points on this pod. So I think a team that needs to improve their secondary, you look at Maxwell Hairston, like, all right, this is a guy we can like structure things with and like really put him in advantageous spots, and the playmaking ability. Like, man, you need somebody that can create turnovers, right? I talk about that with the Giants secondary. Like, even if Deonte Banks gets better with his coverages, he doesn't have that natural ball skills and playmaking instinct. So while he might cover well and develop into a kind of a lockdown guy, you need a guy in the secondary that can pair with him to take the ball away. Like, every secondary needs that, right? Like, you need a guy that can take the ball away and then put it in the paint and score points. The Maxwell Harrison is a guy that if he's sitting 5 yards off and he's squatting, just be careful throwing that quick hitch. Like, just be careful thinking that, oh, well, I got it. And you, especially if you're not a quarterback especially if you're not on time, he's going to take that. He's going to take it to the house. And so everything. So Akila, I like that call out of Maxwell Hairston with him, Mason Taylor, those guys. I do think Azariah Thomas was my other guy. I think he was a guy. He went late in our mock that we did on yesterday. I put him to the Rams. I think he's in that back end 23 to 32, like that guy that, because we talked about it, right? Like, when I gave Malachi Starks to the Eagles let go of Darius Slay. Do they feel like Darius Slay's replacement is on that roster? They're sitting at 32. They can draft whoever they want, and nobody's going to question what they do because they just won the freaking Super Bowl. I think they could be a team that still goes after corner to pair a guy with, because then you allow, because you already have Cuba DeJean, you have Quinyon Mitchell in this Vic Fangio scheme, and I think a guy like Azariah Thomas can then give you that, similar to what Darius Slay was, that guy that's more man-to-man in that secondary, where then you feel, okay, we can mix and match our coverages. We can run zone, we're going to run half zone, half man on the other side. You see certain defenses get real complex and creative with that to kind of trick and force these quarterbacks into some bad reads. So I like that. I like the call out of Maxwell Harrison. I think Azariah Thomas, another guy late in the first. Look out for him and potentially climbing into round one.
Yep, and the last other guy I wanted to mention real quick was just Carson Schlesinger. And I know you talked about him on the mock draft for Locked On, the Locked On Network. If y'all haven't had a chance to tap into that, make sure to tap into that also, because we are over there giving commentary on every pick. So DP, let's do this, man. Let's transition. We went to guys that could climb in, right? But if somebody comes in, that means somebody's got to get kicked out, right? And so we're going to talk about prospects who can fall out of round one, right? Which guys do we see maybe potentially that the rest of the media is higher on, and we think that, hey, like if you really watch the film, a couple of these guys can fall out. So we're going to talk about that. Prospects that can fall out of round one. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save up to 60%. Last-minute deals save up to 60% buying off last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater events, and more near you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices. I'm telling you guys, it's guaranteed. Prospects that can fall out of round one of the 2025 NFL draft. And Keith, this is a guy, I still like his game, but I definitely feel like he might be on the downward trend out of round one. Is Luther Burton III, the wide receiver out of Missouri. Like I know that there was a fall off in production in 2024. The offense was just terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like Brady Cook didn't play the way he did in 2023. No one did in that offense, right? I think they have a running back that I really liked, as a late round guy, Nate Noel, carrying the rock for him. Nobody looked that good in 2024 for this Missouri offense. And I think for him, man, the run after catch, the dynamic ability, explosiveness with the ball in his hands to make plays, there's a developmental upside in terms of like, hey, does he have the movement skills and the athleticism to run more routes than he ran in Missouri? Yes, everything is there for him to run. You got to kind of ask him to do it. Like Missouri didn't ask him to do a lot of things, especially after pump faking us in the summer of last year, saying, yeah, he's going to play on the outside more. He played 99% of the snaps in the slot. Like, you know what I mean? So, it's still some projection there, but I think the thing that's going to knock him down, I think it's going to be, I think the quarterbacks. I think we're going to get more quarterbacks in round one than people expected, potentially, right? I think O-line, we're going to have a decent amount of offensive line because teams need O-line help. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's guard or tackle, teams need it. And then at the same time, I think we get two, maybe three tight ends, multiple running backs potentially. I think that knocks him down. But it's the stuff about what people talk about the character. Like, man, like he doesn't have the right attitude. Or people say that he quit on this team against Alabama in some games and out of frustration with the play calling and quarterback play. I think he's a guy that potentially falls out of round one. And somebody, and I think truthfully, if the Browns go, those top two picks will be interesting in the first round, Keith, because if we know the Cam Ward probably going to Tennessee. If the Browns take Shador instead of taking like a Travis Hunter and trying to move back up for him, they could then pair. Luther Burton is probably going to be a target for one of those two teams at the top of the second round because both of them need wide receiver help. So I think for him, this is a guy that to me still at talent-wise, I think he's still a back end of the first round guy. I don't think he's what people thought he was coming in, you know what I mean, to be in a top 10 lock. I still think he's a first round talent, but the character concerns that people have thrown out there probably pushes him down the board.
Yeah, I always felt that Luther, and this was at peak, right? This was even summertime, and I know you heard me mention this, and I probably said it multiple times on this podcast. I always thought that he was in the same bracket with Jackson Smith and Jigba to me. Like, I thought that they were very similar as far as skill sets, and Jackson wasn't a top 10 pick. I believe he went, because it was that stretch of like 20 through 24 or something like that.
Yeah, it was like four straight receivers.
Yeah, so I think he's somewhere in there graded wise, right? But then, like you said, you mentioned the rumors and the rumblings of the character situation, which could potentially play out. So I'm with you. I'm locking step with that one. I have a couple guys, DP, and listen, I'm a trenches guy. I like the trenches, so it's about to make it look like I'm picking on a couple guys. But if I'm going straight off of film evaluation, the two guys that I have concern for, and I wonder how NFL teams directly feel, would be Alabama offensive guard Tyler Booker and Texas offensive tackle Kelvin Banks. Because as much as the upside is there, when you actually watch watch the details of the play and the technique and everything else, I believe that both of those guys are closer to second round prospects, right? As far as and then first rounds. Like I if you ask me and you tell me to like, because we said this with the quarterbacks, right? Like, oh, Cam Ward would be 5th in last year's draft. Well, if you give me Tyler Booker and Kelvin Banks, Kelvin Banks would be obviously behind what, Joe Oak. He would be behind J.C. Latham. He would be behind Olu Fashanu. He would be behind Talise Fuaga. He would be behind what's our guy that went to Pittsburgh last year?
Marius Mims. Watch Troy Fatanu.
Yeah, Troy Fontano. He would be behind them, right? So now you're talking about the 6th, 7th, maybe 8th offensive tackle off of the board. That's how I kind of view it. I think he would be in that category for me. So he's the guy that I'll be really interested to see what NFL teams buy in. And then with Tyler Booker, I think that Tyler fits the mold of the classic Alabama offensive lineman, that big boys, right? But you have concerns about the movement skills, and the 40 time meant nothing to me. I just thought that people talking about, well, it doesn't matter, but I thought that him on film, there were some things there that when I talk about the athletic ability and stuff like that. So that's two guys that I would say I could see if they fell out of the first round. I would just say that the NFL watched the film and they went with what the film said, right? And
they're not shocked. Yeah, you wouldn't be shocked with those. I think, Tyler Booker is definitely going to be a guy that you want to, because he's a big guy, heavy footed dude. Yep. You kind of want to tighten that box, shrink that box that he plays in, and make it a phone booth in a sense. So you like having that right tackle center pairing with him is going to really help him, especially early on in his career. I think the main team I see him linked to has been the Arizona Cardinals, because they're one of those teams that run physical gap stuff downhill.
So with that was James the other part. I don't know if you feel the same way. And maybe you go back and watch and let me know how you feel. I didn't get that he was like this big drive blocker off of the football. Like you know what I'm saying? Like just like a people mauler. So that was the other part too.
I feel like the upper body strength is there. I think the foot, like the moving and running his feet consistently, is going to be the thing for him. Like getting his feet, picking them up, putting them down, and just like run that guy off the ball. You see the body type, you see the strength up from the waist up. It's there. It's okay. Can you consistently and quickly run your feet vertically to move those guys and displace them in the run game? I think that I'm agree with you there. I wouldn't be shocked if he slipped down the board for sure. Because you just look at Gray Zabel, got that he played all four. He played 4 to 5 positions on the O-line at North Dakota State. Like this guy's going to have immense value. You know what I mean? I think a team like the Seattle Seahawks are probably going to be that landing spot for him, where he could play guard, center, or guard, depending on you want to get the best 5 out there. He's going to be one of them. Probably day 1 of the NFL season, week 1 of the NFL season. Keith, I look at this. This hurts me to say, because this is a guy I love. He's my number 2 at the position. I think Walter Nolen. Like there's a lot of smoke around. No, it's not the game. Yeah, it's something about his character that I've seen tweets. I think I saw somebody like pull it up on the. Like I take everything with a grain of salt, especially around this time. It's smoke screen season, so people just lighting fires and running away from them and just letting the smoke burn. You know what I mean? Like, and then you walk back there to see what's going on. You're like, who did this? Like, who created this fire? Like, nobody knows. But like, it's been tweets of, hey, stay away from Walter Nolen. I wouldn't draft Walter Nolen. There's talks about him having character concerns, but then it's like no one's really going in depth on the character concern. Like it's vague. And I keep going back to it. It's vague. I think he's my IDL too. Like, this is a guy that I think you put him at 3 tech, you let him get north and south. We saw it, like the movement skills, the hip fluidity, the quickness, the first step, everything to be a high level disruptor is there physically for him. And we watched the tape. You saw a guy that was playing completely out of position at Ole Miss. You know what I mean? So it's like, now you get him, go back to the Senior Bowl. It's like, hey, go 1-on-1 playing 3 tech. Yeah, those interior offensive linemen had a long day. They had a rough time trying to be able to match him tempo for tempo, quickness, speed, and then power. And then the run game, I'll never forget watching the run drills, like when they would go 11 on 11. And I'm like, yeah, this is a nightmare. Like, you're not moving nobody off the D line, and they couldn't move him either. And I was just like, he's playing 3 tech, and he's got one gap to be responsible for. And he was locking it down. I'm like, this guy's still a top 12 grade for me, but it's either the biggest smoke screen in the world to me, or there might be some actual fire to, team. Like, there was some stuff that happened behind the scenes at Ole Miss, or because he was at Ole Miss and he's at Ole Miss this year. I think did he transfer from A&M or?
Yeah, he originally signed to Texas A&M originally. Yep.
So it's like, is there real fire there? That's why I think he could potentially slip down the board, but grade wise, like tape, I'm still drafting him top 15. This dude is just
Nah, he is. He definitely is. I agree with that 100%. With DP, we might as well wrap this thing up with some hot takes. We are firing from the hip with this one, man. So we have our NFL draft hot takes. What do we think? What is some off the wall stuff? We're gonna talk about that coming up next.
Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your pair controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every day's NFL Draft hot takes. Just a couple days away from the actual kickoff of the 2025 NFL Draft. Keith, what hot take do you have for me and the family today?
DP, I'm going with at least 4 quarterbacks are going in the first round. That is what I think. At least 4, because the math is not mathing for me. And I think we talked about this months ago, right? It's a supply and demand issue. It's too many teams that need quarterbacks. And some teams have clearly backed themselves up against the wall to what they almost have to draft a quarterback. What I like for the Cleveland Browns to draft Abdul Carter, or would I like the Giants to get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? Yes, I would. But what do they do after this? Like what do the Giants do? Because this is everything you have to think about if you're the Giants. If you're the Giants, Russell Wilson is good enough to play you out of a top 10 pick. He's good enough to put you at pick 23. Then are you going to sign him to an extended contract? And then do you still have a quarterback of the future, right? That's one issue, right? The Cleveland Browns, y'all don't have a quarterback. Like, if you like Kenny Pickett that much, then say that, right? Say Kenny Pickett is our guy. You have Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. Y'all just don't have a quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I am disappointed, to be completely honest. I expected more of Pittsburgh. I did not think that they would put themselves in position to be listening to what Aaron Rodgers says to them via the Pat McAfee show, right? You guys are the Steelers, right?
Ridiculous.
And I would have never thought that. And then there's still other random teams out there that the Jets are a complete wild card. The Raiders are a complete wild card. And what I'm doing is I'm paying attention to the teams that aren't saying anything. The Shador Sanders to the New Orleans Saints, right? That's picking up a lot of steam. But is it going to happen? Because the Saints are telling everybody that they like him, right? So if they're telling us they like Shador Sanders, I'm wondering if they really like Jalen Milroe or Will Howard or somebody, right? Because I don't understand if it's competitive. Why are we telling everybody if you don't have the number 1 overall pick, then you're losing all leverage.
No, 100%. No, you're right. It's man, we get 4 quarterbacks in round 1. Like
I think we get 4.
The people who said this class was terrible, like we might see some tweets being deleted. Keith. We might get some deleted tweets. But I think to your point though, like you said, these teams have backed themselves. It's to me, I look at especially the Giants and the Browns, and the simple fact of you're not new coaching staffs. You know what I mean? Like you're not new coaching staffs.
1,000,000%.
Like I told our guy Tyler Rowan over with Locked On Titans, like feels like months ago, and is crazy because he's changed his stance a little bit.
Yeah,
now he got into the film of Cam Ward.
Yep.
Yeah, he's hardcore Cam, but he was like, yeah, we can go Abdul and just wait for a quarterback next year. And I'm like, when you have the first overall pick, I'm not banking that you're going to have it again. But Coach Callahan, going into his second full year as a head coach, he got a little time, right? Like, yes, Kevin Stefanski, you've been there a decent amount of time, right? Yep. Like, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, you've been there. Like, you don't have the same length on the leash. Like, you kind of need to figure out what are we doing, and that PR of the situation of, like you said, and I think that's the key part. The Russell Wilson can really play you out of a top 10 pick. Like, we know that. Like, Russell Wilson can uncork those bombs of Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton and get the ball to Wan'Dale Robinson as his new Tyler Lockett. You get the run game going and all that. If your defense plays better than they did last year, yeah, you could be looking at pick like 18. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like 100%. Now you gotta literally like give up. You gotta call teams. All right, what do you want for
and
2? What do you want for 3?
They're gonna hit you with the 3 1s, 2 2s, and a
second.
Yep.
Right. Like they're gonna hit you with I want the King's ransom. All right. Like I'm trying to take everything out the cupboard. I'm gonna make the cupboard bare. So listen. Guys, if we get 4 quarterbacks in round 1, just know you heard it here first on Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Keith Sanchez said it. He called it and he stamped it. Keith, this was probably gonna hurt. This was already gonna hurt you because I know this is a guy you like a lot, and I like him too. I've said I like this.
Here we go.
But getting into some tape, I would rather draft Darius Alexander than Kenneth Grant.
Wow, that do hurt.
And let me explain why. I think Kenneth Grant is going to be the better run defender for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? I think that 6'4", 340, 33.5-inch arms. Yeah, I think this guy's going to be much better as a run defender out the gate. And I do think that he has the ability to 2-gap if you actually want him to. Like, I don't think you have to tell him to 2-gap, but if you're a defense that wants him to 2-gap, fine. It's the pass rush. Like that, I feel like Darius, because I like, and I agree with you in the sense of, I think he's better than Jordan because of what he was asked to do compared to what Jordan's asked to do. Georgia would tell Jordan Davis, hey, just occupy these gaps, keep our linebackers free. Like, I'll never forget that still frame of him parting the Red Sea, him sitting in 2 gaps, and the running back is getting the ball, and he's just looking at Jordan Davis. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not something you ever want to see as a running back. You know what I mean? To see that big man just sitting there waiting on you. Like, that play was over from the start. But I think, with Michigan, they allowed Kenneth Grant to get vertical, to attack, where Georgia didn't do that with Jordan. It was just like, just be big, just be a stopgap in a sense. So I think he is better than Jordan Davis. And I think there's upside for him. But I look at Darius and I'm like, and don't get me wrong, teams are running the ball more and leaning more to it. But at the end of the day, you got to get to the quarterback. I think Darius is going to have more of an impact as a true pass rusher. He's 6'4" as well. He's like 305, 34-inch arms. Being able to play that 3-tech, 4-eye, get vertical, get to the quarterback. He does play the run fairly well as well. He's not a guy that's just like a DPR in a sense, or rotational guy. Like, he can't stop the run. He's good against the run. But I think the ability to get to the quarterback is what separates them. And that's why I think for me, it's like, okay, you're dealing with, if you depends on which division you're in, what conference you're in. Either way, you got to deal with Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff. If you're in the NFC, I know I'm missing on somebody right now. You know what I mean? No disrespect to the other quarterbacks. I don't want no fan base to think I'm disrespecting them. But if you're in the AFC, you got to get Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like those are the big four to five. Like you got to get to these guys. And I think Darius gives me more bang for my buck as a pass rusher. Where I was looking at Kenneth Grant. I'm like, I can see him developing more there, but it's just a little bit too much projection for me to be comfortable with as a pass rusher. Where I look at Darius and I know there's a clear floor for you as a guy that can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I don't mind it, right? And this is why.
Just say you agree. Just say you agree.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree. I will not agree. I won't agree. You won't get me to say I agree. That because I don't. What I'm about to say is I put those guys, and I was about to say this with the prospect. No, when you was talking about Walter Nolen and him being your IDL too, right? In the second segment, as far as what I was about to jump in and say is that I think that they're different buckets, right? If you're because and it's crazy how all this kind of turns around. Because what I was going to say was that Mason Graham, I would have Walter Nolen as my IDL 2 if it was a pass rushing perspective, right? And I think that Mason Graham and it tied not by the tie in Darius Alexander also. Mason Graham, Walter Nolen, Darius Alexander, because I think they all kind of provide you with the same things as far as, you know, the quick slashers, getting in the gaps, pass rush ability. Is there an opportunity for them to touch double-digit sacks as IDLs, right? I put Kenneth Grant in an entirely different bucket, right? Like if you just need just a true kind of just run stuffer, right? Like just exactly what he does. Yeah, and to be completely honest, and this is why this works, is probably because they're complementary pieces, right? Like the reason why Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant worked is because they're probably somewhat complementary pieces. And if I was building a defensive line for the NFL, right, if it was just an even front, I would say, hey, Kenneth Grant, you're gonna be the run stopper. Mason Graham, cause havoc, right? Like that type of thing. So that's why I say I don't mind it, because I kind of put those guys. Yeah, it's the IDL position, but you know, when you get into the details of like,
buckets and categories,
let me rank my one techs and things like that. That's why I say I don't.
It's definitely going to be scheme dependent, right? If you run the odd front and you run like you probably want more of the Kenneth Grant because he can fill that 0 tech to 0 and 1 tech for you and be a traditional nose. But if you already have one, if you want, especially a team that if you're in a division, like for example, the Carolina Panthers, if they were to draft a Kenneth Grant, they run an odd front. I still wouldn't be mad at them, even though you have Derek Brown. He can play like Kenneth Grant can play the 0, or he can kind of probably play the 4 out of 5 tech as well, and just help improve their run game. So no, I get that makes sense. Like I didn't because we didn't separate them. I think we've done that in the past with defensive tackles. We didn't separate them this draft into actual like pass rush, run defense, and or nose tackle, 3 techs. Next year, guys, we'll bring that back. We did.
Yep, and I'm gonna wrap this up. One sneaky pick, DP. The Philadelphia Eagles. I think they could draft Darius Alexander in the first round. They've already had success with Toledo. They know that program from the situation with Quinyon Mitchell replacing Milton Williams. They could put him in there. So because I like Darius Alexander. So that's why I say I'm not mad at the take. I just think it's different.
They gotta need the position too. After you said the Milton Williams thing, they gotta need
100%. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. And come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.